Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another videos, another paid request. It's time for Lucas. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos or topics or commentaries, what have you, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for the 2005 film Fantastic Four, which he wanted me to do a commentary, which I just did, and he also wanted me to do a review of this. Now, this is a film that I've never hated. I know a lot of people do. Did and do. It's directed by Tim Story, which I don't think he's the best director in the world. But I thought this film was pretty fun. It's not immaculate. There's issues, yes. But I don't think it was nearly as bad as people made it out to be. Now, I gotta mention, I'm not that knowledgeable on the source material. I know of the characters, but to be honest, the only comments I read with them was ones when like Spider-Man teamed up with them, or Spider-Man being friendly with the Human Torch. So very briefly. But I knew of them and the references in them in cartoons, things of that nature. But I'm not an aficionado. I know some people say they're aficionado even though they've only read like 2 issues. I'm not that way. Now, I did see the cheapo Roger Corman produced one that some say got made only to keep the rights going, and then the one studio said, fine, we'll give you the money if you bury this because we want to make this big budget version. But the cast and director didn't know anything about this. They thought they were going to make a film that was going to get released. There's a very interesting documentary called Doomed, if you can find it to watch, about that production. I'm not a fan of that movie. I know some people say that's the best version. I disagree entirely. Not just because it looks cheap as fuck, although the Thing looks really good in that version. The story is very boring. It's a very boring, lackluster film where the acting's not that great. The villain looks like a Caucasian Lieutenant Phillips. I just not a fan of that movie. Now, after this, you have the sequel, Rise of the Silver Surfer, which I do think sucks. I do not like that movie at all. I think it's a terrible fucking film. That'd be funny if Lucas requested a commentary on that one day. Does that be a ranting commentary? I think I got the DVD over there too. It was part of a set with this and others. But I think that's a film that is more disrespectful than this movie. You had Galactus as a fucking fart cloud. Where the hell he was. Silver Surfer was wasted. Although I liked that Lawrence Fishburne was the voice. But that was a waste of a movie. And I do like the 2015 film, because I will admit it does get a bit boring, tedious, too slow at times. But I kind of appreciate, I could see what the director was trying to do, and I actually commend him for it in a weird way. And something about that made it a bit more endearing to me as like an experimental type of superhero flick. And I actually don't mind the actors in that movie and the performances. I don't mind it. I don't care. I still don't mind that movie from 2015. But I do think this is the best version of the Fantastic Four, and I think it'll be a lot better than what the hell Marvel does with them. You already saw a taste of it with that fucking Doctor Strange sequel where you had Reed Richards, and he's supposed to be the smartest guy, but he does the dumbest shit. Hey, Scarlet Witch, the thing that you should know, I'm going to tell you. He's about ready to blow your head off with his mouth. And then lo and behold, she closes the guy's mouth and his head blows up. And then Reed Richards melts into a, I don't know, a rubber condom. I don't know where the fuck he melts into. Like, yeah, that's Marvel of today. So, yeah. I'll stick with this, and this Reed Richards. And I think that's what that made this film work. I like the cast. I butcher his name. I know I will. Ioan Gruffudd, who plays Reed Richards. I thought he captured that kind of nerdy, but not overly stereotypical nerdy. You still buy him as a leader, but you buy him caring for the team, trying to be the responsible one, being either nervous and a bit over his head with Sue Storm, but at the same time you tell that he cares for her. I thought he worked rather well as Reed Richards. Johnny Storm, played by Chris Evans. This is a time when he would get these kind of roles. Cellular, pretty underrated film he starred in with Jason Statham as the bad guy and Kim Basinger in the movie, William H. Macy. Chris Evans starred as this type of smart aleck type character. He also played a similar character in The Losers, another underrated film with Jeffrey D. Morgan and Idris Elba. Also, I think, based on a comic book. He was Casey Jones in the 2007 CGI Ninja Turtle movie. Of course, as well, before he played Captain America. I thought Chris Evans had that likable charm of being a smartass and being the gun-ho guy to jump first, head first, and ask questions later. Michael Chiklis was the MVP of the film. I thought he really gave a good, heartfelt performance as a thing. From what I understand, he was a big fan of the comics. You could tell with what he put into the performance, and he really wanted it to be a practical suit and not be a CGI suit. I will say the suit, I have some issues with it. I mean, you look at it here. I know there's a poster on the other side, but when you look at it here, there's something about it that looks a bit off. Like the way, I wish it was a bit more rocky. It looks a bit too much like a foam suit. I think the eyebrows not being there hurt it. Because we think of the theme, the eyebrows are a distinct characteristic. And I think leaving them out kind of makes his face look more human and less the thing. Same with around the eyes. Like around the eyes just seem a bit too human for what the thing would be. I think the eyebrows could have helped with that. So I think the suit from the Corman production was actually the best looking suit. If that suit, fine-tuned for more maneuverability, was using this, I think that would have been pristine with Michael Chiklis' performance. But his performance helps carry that suit through, despite the suit's deficiencies. And I like Michael Chiklis. I like him as an actor. I know I haven't seen much of The Shield. I know of it, though. I guess he does TV work nowadays. Not a lot of movies. The last movie I saw him in was this really awful one that Bruce Willis was in. It was one of those Bruce Willis direct-to-video films that was like a dime a dozen for a bit. More than likely because of his health issues. But Michael Chiklis really brought that. He had a fun attitude at the beginning. Like when the plot of the film is Ben Grimm, played by Michael Chiklis, and Ioan Gruffudd, who's Reed Richards. Ben Grimm and Reed Richards, they have this plan. They need money. They go to Julian McMahon, who at the time he had done this TV show called Nip Tuck, who plays Dr. Doom. Which he's probably one of the big nitpicks of the film I have with it, which I'll get to. I don't mind the actor, but I think they could have done a lot more with Dr. Doom. I think the way that he's portrayed, of all the characters, he's the one that has a bit more issues than the others. There's a project to go out into space, study the solar winds. He funds it. Here's the catch. I'm going with you. Also, Sue Storm, who I'm dating right now, and then she's going to bring her brother Johnny Storm. Johnny Storm's going to be one of the leaders. And like Michael Chiklis later on goes, no, no, Reed, I can't take orders from the underwear model. Oh, come on, Ben, how many times have I asked you to do something you don't want to do? 5 times. I thought it was 4. Well, this is the 5th time. I think the way the actors interact with each other, the main 4, is what made this film work. And yes, that does include Jessica Alba, which I know is the big point of contention with people. Watching her in this movie, I really didn't have any problems with it. She's no Meryl Streep or Sigourney Weaver. But honestly, for the type of role she was playing, I thought she did better here than Brie Larson in Captain Marvel, or Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique in the X-Men later films, or some of these other characters and performers of late. And she's very beautiful. And, people think it's Stevie, but, nice to see some of her attributes as well as the Invisible Woman. And each one, had their family dynamic. I think that's what worked here was, I felt the friendship between Reed and Ben and that they had a history together. The fun antagonism between Ben and Johnny. They go into space, there's this cosmic radiation, they get hit with it. The effects don't work the best, but it was 2005. It is what it is, how effects were at that time. I do love the gag. I thought it was actually a pretty clever gag, where you assume, of course, he's the Thane, and you see from his point of view, and Chris Evans talking to him, it's really bad. And he looks at his normal face, and Chris Evans goes, the doctor's trying to find a way to fix your face. And Michael just throws the mirror, and Chris Evans just runs out. I thought that was wholesome fun that was pertaining to the characters. Not for some political bullshit, a woke agenda, or puke and milking jokes like a certain Ninja Turtle film nowadays, or other shit. It was wholesome family fun. This is like the first Marvel family. I thought it worked in that. Even as a guy that's not that knowledgeable on the comics. And, you have the Reed Richards Sue Storm, where Sue Storm wants his attention, but Reed Richards is always busy with his science, and her getting frustrated with it. Even the brotherly sister, little bit of fun antagonism between Johnny and Sue, which they did feel like brother and sister to me. Those 4 worked really well together. And it's interesting when you watch this, so many people talk about how, it's just movies just filled with CGI action. It's not the case with this. There's really only 2 action scenes. There's the bit where they use their powers on the bridge. And then the finale when the Thane is fighting Dr. Doom. They get to this block, and then the others come in. Now, it may not be Man of Steel, the whole fucking city's blowing up type of shit. I actually find it kind of quaint watching it nowadays. It was serving well as a first origin story. Because in this case, other than a film that at the time no one could watch as unreleased, the 94 Roger Corman produced one, there hadn't been a lot of it. If this was the 5th Batman that once again told the origin story of this and that, I could see your point. Unless you do it interesting, like to me, the new Batman one with Robert Pattinson. But if you do an origin story, I could deal with, okay, this is our introduction to the characters. I like this film. A fair criticism is it's less about plot, it's more about the characters. And you're right. But this is actually what I like about the movie. I like the way the characters interact with each other. I like the way you see how their powers grow and try to understand their powers. Reed Richards his friend is in the other room and doesn't know if Ben's safe or not, so he has to figure out how to get his hand under. And anytime you try to make someone like a Stretch Armstrong type, it's always, I think it's always going to be funky looking effects. Even whatever the hell Marvel does with the new Fantastic Four, I guarantee you, whatever they do with Reed Richards, it's going to look funky. It's going to look weird. Because it's hard to make a person look like that unless you somehow do it practically. Like a very advanced version of the American Wolf in London with their stendo in. If somehow you, with the technology today, make that very extensive, it's always going to look wonky, I think, to me. But yeah, I don't know, man. It is one of those things where it didn't bother me as much, I guess, as other people did. And people said it's a comedy. From what I understand, like, there were people that wanted to make this more comedic, and actually Tim Story said, no, we could have humor in this, but I still want to tell a little bit of a serious story, which I did see in the final product. And the humor that was there worked well for what it needed to do. Chris Evans is Steen, and he's understanding his powers. Wait, what the hell's going on? And he flies through and accidentally creates a sauna, and the girl he's with is like, starts taking her clothes off. That's what I'm talking about. Nowadays, you can't do that because it'd be looked at as sexist. God bless the old days. And when I say the old days of 2005, that's saying something. And that's another thing. I like the superhero era of that more than today. I know it's not a popular opinion, but I looked at the first two X-Men movies, the 2003 Daredevil, especially the director's cut, Hulk from 2003, which I enjoy, The Punisher from 2004, this in 2005. For the most part, I actually liked this era. Spider-Man 2 is a good movie. I have issues with it, but it's a good movie. I like that era of superhero films more than what we have today. I really do. I have a feeling I'm not alone in that as much as I think I am. But maybe, hey, maybe that is just me. I don't know. But let's say I like the way the characters interact with each other. And Ben Grimm, I think Michael Chiklis again, this guy who's been turned into this monster and he can't turn it off. I think he brings a good amount of heart to the performance. There's a bit where he's hanging out on the bridge and, hey Bird, you're not afraid of me. And it's a juvenile joke, but they do it in a way which I could deal with, where when it leaves, then he sees, oh man, at least it wasn't a sound effect. It's, ooh, the kids will laugh if the fart sounds in there from a bird. No, it just remains. But I like that there's a jumper, and he's like, what are you doing? You think you got problems, pal? Look at me, man. And this is, from what the bits I did read and see in cartoons of the Thing, he did seem like that lovable bloke. That lovable guy. He's maybe made of heart. I mean, he's made of stone, but he's got a soft heart to him. And I think Michael Chiklis really brought that out. And when the action's there, surprised by good check of practical stuff. Like when there's a guy in the middle of the road and the Thing comes in and smashes the truck, and you see that's a real semi-truck that they probably put something in there, green screen, but it hit, and you see how it embedded in the middle of the damn semi-truck. That was done practical. And yeah, there's CGI, but there's a decent amount of practical in that sequence. It's actually not too bad of a scene for these characters to showcase their powers. Same with some of the bits in the finale where, well, the Thing takes his vehicle and throws it and it tumbles in order to get into Doctor Doom. And how the four work together. Now, maybe people wanted more action, and, you know, I can understand that point. I again, although I like the actor, the way Doctor Doom is presented, Victor Doom, I didn't mind the idea that he went up with the four of them. Just want to understand the comics that didn't happen. He wasn't with them with the cosmic radiation. He was Latveria dictator, how you want to put it, Latveria, which is referenced in the movie more than once. I didn't mind that. Show a little bit of history between them, like personal history. It's just that there's not a lot to make him a very interesting villain. Now, when I think of Doctor Doom, I always think of the look of Doctor Doom. It's a really cool looking look of a villain. But I'm not that knowledgeable on what the deeper aspects of Doctor Doom is to form a worthwhile opinion of who he is as a character in the comics. People out there would have to educate me on it. But I would assume it's a lot more interesting than what was presented here, which is just he wants power, he likes Sue Storm, and just the film spent more time on the main four, which makes sense. This is the Fantastic Four. I think that's the positive of the film. It's just the negative is that once a while it cuts back and Doom is just there's really not much. His company's going under, and he doesn't really have much to play off of, and I don't know. I think he was the right voice, Julian McMahon. I think he had the right voice and mannerisms. And if he had a good sequel, good writing to develop that character more, or wait till a third film, have a second film with a good Galactus and or good other villains and go cosmic, more so. The second film, in a weird way, seemed cheaper than the first. It did. I don't know how. I'm not saying it was. It seemed cheaper. The sequel seemed. But there was potential you could have developed it more to maybe overcome the deficiencies of how he was in the first film. But as is, I think of the representation of the characters, Doctor Doom. I don't blame the actor. It's the way he's written. I think it was just that was the weakest. That was one of the weaker parts of the movie. As I like the bits with Michael Chiklis as a theme. I like the I forgot her name. In the bar, you have the blind lady who warms up to him. I thought the actress did a good job. I liked that scene. I liked her mannerisms. I liked her attitude. Very likable, instantly likable person. I'm just bad with names, so I forgot her name. But I liked her in the movie. I mean, I like the idea. Well, it's a catch-20. Like and dislike. I like the idea that Michael Chiklis, his character, gets cured, and then he has to make the unselfish decision to turn into that thing again in order to save his friends. I just don't buy that. Since it's worked, Reed could definitely come up with a cure. I just don't buy that Ben Grimm would just, nah, that's okay, I'll live with this. I don't buy that. And if they could have done a bit more to make us buy into that. I did have him feeling guilt, but at the same time, I don't know. I just don't buy him. I don't buy him just staying as a thing when there's an easy chance to him to go back as Ben Grimm. So I didn't buy that aspect, but maybe that could have been written a bit better in some way. Okay, one scene comes to mind. There's more than one, but like, why do I like this film? It says, how the fuck do you like this? There's a scene where Johnny is going off and he wants to. He loves this, which I like that idea that he loves the attention. He loves these superpowers. It's so cool. It's this like motocross bit, and he's got to do the stunt, so he flies off, flame on. And there's a bit where on the news he's making fun of Reed Richards. He's definitely making fun of Ben Grimm. And Ben's like, okay, I'm going to kill him now. So he goes by and sees Johnny's car, and he turns to a ball, rolls it down, and kind of they're back and forth where they're making fun of each other, and then Johnny's throwing flames at his face. Did you just... Alright, that's it. You want to fly? I'll make you fly. That whole bit of interaction, that works well, and that's the thing is, that can be a very good formula to use. Other factors and media has used that. The Ninja Turtles, for example. Raph the hothead, Mighty the goofball, Leo the leader, Donnie the scientist. You have these different personalities that you can work with. And like when I see Johnny and Ben Grimm, I see, you know, Raphael and Mighty, or the 18 TV show, I see Mr. T and Hollyman Murdoch. And I guess the face man would be the face woman, and for Reed Richards, nothing like a plan coming together. My point is that that's a tried and true formula that I think works fairly well in this movie too. Like I said, I think Doctor Doom, with Doom they could have done a bit more to flourish that character to make him a more memorable villain. Maybe an extra action scene or two could have helped. The musical score, I really don't remember much about the musical score and the theme. Or even the songs. Nothing really comes to mind, to be honest. I don't even know who did the score for this movie. Maybe I'd have to listen to it on its own to give a fairer review of it. John Ottman. Yeah, maybe I'd have to watch it. Maybe I'd listen to it on its own. I just don't remember much about it. But yeah, I just got a sense of this group as a family. When they're working together as Doctor Doom versus Doctor Doom, they're using their moments to help out and defeat this guy. And Johnny's doing the whole tunnel of fire, and Ben Grimm's like, flame on, kid. The idea, a sense of the closeness of these four, I think, that, like I said, that is the heart of the matter to the movie. And I think Tim Story did a fairly decent job with that. I think that was what he was hired to do. He wasn't hired to be the action director, and that's why there's that much action, although it's decent for the little that's there. Sadly, the sequel was a different matter. But, you know, this film I don't think is that bad of a movie. I mean, it's what, a 5.7, but then Captain Marvel has a 6.8? Give me a fucking break, man. Give me a break. So no, I don't think this film's as bad as people make out to be. It's labeled as laughable, it's labeled as corny. I just think it was more of the family's just a bit more heartfelt, and even the bit where they're cooped up inside, they can't go outside, so there's a silly gag where Johnny's putting whipped cream and trying to touch Ben Grimm's nose, and he does this with the whipped cream, and as silly as it is, I think the actors made it work, where you get Chris Evans' reaction of, yeah, that quickly moves out. Yes, it's sitcom-like, but I just thought it worked for this type of... If this was fucking... I don't know. Try to think of a group of characters that are much more dark. I mean, if this happened... If Robin did this to Batman, then I would have more issues with it. But, like, here, it just didn't bother me like it did others. And it did well when it came out the box office. But I think after it came out, there's a lot of people that didn't end up liking it. They saw it the first time out of curiosity, but then when the sequel came out, they didn't bother to go see that one because they didn't like the first one. So the box office suffered. And it's funny with this DVD, I was looking at it. It actually has the ticket that I guess they put in these to go see the second movie. Rise of the Silver Surfer, June 2007, with the family there. And then this here. So the sequel was a disappointment, but this I thought was pretty damn decent. After all these years, I still like the movie. Thanks for watching. Take care. I'll take this movie over a lot of the superhero shit nowadays. And you know what? In the theatrical cut, because this has both the theatrical and extended cut. It's called the extended edition, but it's got both cuts on it. Lo and behold, you put something that has both cuts of the film. I know it's such a weird idea. But this came out when the sequel was coming out, which I think the sequel was 2007. So this is under 2 hours. It was 1 hour and 47 minutes, give or take. So doesn't overstay its welcome. Didn't have to be 2.5 fucking hours long, 3 hours. And that was pretty good. Still think it's pretty good. That said, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.